Every single week across Great Britain, millions of motorists pull onto petrol station forecourts, hand over £70 or £80 and drive away assuming that high fuel bills are simply an unavoidable tax on modern life. Yet on the exact same road layout, covering the exact same weekly mileage, a driver trained under the Japanese licensing system fills up their tank roughly half as often. It is not because their car sports a hybrid badge, carries a smaller engine, or uses special Japanese lubricants. It is because British drivers have been systematically conditioned to operate their vehicles in a way that burns up to 30% more fuel than necessary. The commercial motoring ecosystem, from fuel refiners to retail forecourts and even the Treasury collecting heavy fuel duty, has zero financial interest in correcting your driving habits. Every litre of petrol or diesel you do not burn represents revenue erased from their balance sheets. Official testing data from independent European engineering bodies, alongside extensive research from the Japanese Ministry of Infrastructure, confirms that applying a framework of 7 specific mechanical habits keeps between £350 to over £500 in your bank account every single year. These are not complex mechanical modifications, tedious hypermiling stunts, or risky techniques. They are straightforward, safe, and immediate physical adjustments that any British driver can implement the moment they turn the key today. To understand why this works, we must first dismantle the single most expensive driving myth taught in British driving schools: the belief that pressing the brake pedal is the primary way to slow down a motor vehicle safely. When you approach a roundabout on a busy A road or see brake lights flashing ahead on the motorway, stepping on the brake pedal converts your car's forward motion directly into wasted friction heat on the brake discs. What most motorists are never taught is that modern fuel-injected engines possess a built-in mechanical feature known as overrun fuel cut-off. When your car is in gear and you lift your foot completely off the accelerator pedal, the engine management computer detects that zero throttle input is requested and shuts off the fuel injectors entirely. The momentum of the rolling wheels keeps the engine turning over smoothly, but actual fuel consumption drops instantly to absolute zero. You are literally travelling down the tarmac without burning a single micro drop of fuel. The typical British driver tends to coast with the clutch depressed, stay light on the gas, or brake late, keeping fuel flowing continuously into the combustion chambers. By contrast, lifting off early and allowing engine braking to pull the vehicle down to speed recovers miles of completely free travel every single week. This mechanical principle connects directly to another costly oversight on British motorways: the velocity threshold trap. Every engine and transmission configuration has a distinct operating band where engine power, gear ratios, and aerodynamic resistance exist in perfect equilibrium. For the vast majority of passenger cars on UK roads, that sweet spot lies between 45 and 55 miles per hour. The moment you push past 60 miles per hour towards 70 or 75, aerodynamic drag does not increase in a straight line. It scales exponentially. Pushing a vehicle through the air at 75 miles per hour requires dramatically more power than cruising smoothly at 60. On a typical 30-mile commute along the M25, M6 or M4, driving at 60 miles per hour instead of pushing past 75 costs you less than 3 minutes of travel time, but cuts your total fuel burn by up to 22%. Japanese motorists treat this velocity threshold as basic driving common sense, whereas British drivers routinely burn through a quarter of their fuel tank simply fighting invisible air resistance to arrive at the next queue 2 minutes earlier. The way you reach that cruising speed in the first place is equally misunderstood. Millions of drivers believe that crawling away from a junction like a snail, barely touching the accelerator, is the secret to saving fuel. In reality, that habit produces the exact opposite result. Gentle acceleration and efficient acceleration are two entirely different concepts. Every combustion engine has an efficiency window where it operates most effectively under moderate load below 2,200 RPM. When you accelerate too slowly, your transmission remains trapped in lower gears for far too long. Lower gears require the engine crankshaft to rotate significantly more times per mile travelled, forcing the fuel pump to deliver repeated squirts of fuel. The most efficient way to accelerate is to apply firm, smooth pressure, shift up through the gears promptly, and reach your top cruising gear in the shortest possible time, while keeping your revs under 2,200 RPM throughout the entire progression. This gets your vehicle into its highest, most efficient gear in seconds, minimizing the duration of high fuel combustion cycles. As we examine how these mechanical habits interact with your car's daily running costs, consider how straightforward these adjustments are once you understand the physics behind them. If you appreciate this kind of practical, evidence-based motoring advice that saves real money without sales pitches, take 2 seconds right now to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Beyond engine management and gear selection, another major source of wasted fuel lies where your tyres meet the road. In Japan, checking tyre pressure on the forecourt is considered a standard routine at almost every refuelling stop. In the UK, most drivers wait until an MOT advisory notes low pressure or a warning light flashes on the dashboard. A tyre that is underinflated by just 4 or 5 pounds per square inch looks completely plump to the naked eye. Even an experienced mechanic cannot spot that pressure drop simply by glancing at the rubber on your driveway. Yet that slight softness increases rolling resistance immensely. Your engine is forced to drag a soft, squishy footprint of rubber across the asphalt continuously. A single underinflated tyre increases fuel consumption by 3%. With millions of cars driving across Britain today on 2 or 3 underinflated tyres, vast amounts of money are burned simply overcoming avoidable rolling drag. Spending 3 minutes at the forecourt air pump every fortnight delivers an immediate tax-free return on your money. Managing your vehicle's air conditioning and climate control system requires a similar shift in perspective. The most expensive moment to run your climate control is immediately after stepping into a hot, sun-baked car. When heat accumulates inside the cabin, turning the air conditioning to maximum power right as you start the engine forces the air conditioning compressor to operate under peak mechanical load while the engine is cold and idling. This generates the single highest fuel consumption spike of your entire journey. The efficient approach is simple. Open the doors or roll down the windows for 60 seconds before setting off to allow the trapped hot air to vent naturally. Drive for the first minute with the windows down so the natural airflow clears the remaining heat, then switch on the air conditioning once moving. Crucially, turn the air conditioning compressor off 2 minutes before reaching your destination. The cooling system retains its cold temperature for those final moments while relieving the engine of compressor resistance completely for free. Unnecessary weight hiding inside your vehicle creates a constant, silent penalty on every journey. If you walk through any supermarket car park in the UK and peer into the boots of parked cars, you will see heavy bags of forgotten de-icing grit, rusty toolboxes, old golf equipment, child seats long outgrown, and containers of spare fluids. In Japanese engineering philosophy, there is a core principle known as muda, which refers to silent cumulative waste that occurs unnoticed day after day. Carrying 40 or 50 kilograms of unneeded clutter in your boot increases your fuel consumption by up to 1.5% over time. Taking 10 minutes to empty out your boot costs absolutely nothing, lightens the load on your suspension, and permanently reduces the work your engine has to perform on every mile of road. All of these individual habits culminate in the overarching mental framework that underpins true driving efficiency, anticipatory driving. This is the foundational skill that transforms how you interact with traffic. Reactive drivers focus entirely on what is happening directly in front of their bonnet. They accelerate until they reach the back of a queue, then step heavily on the brakes. Anticipatory drivers actively scan the horizon 15 to 20 seconds ahead of their current position. On a British motorway or dual carriageway, that means observing traffic flow a quarter of a mile down the tarmac. In busy town centres or on approach lanes to complex roundabouts, it means reading conditions 2 or 3 junctions ahead. When an anticipatory driver spots a red light or brake lights flashing far ahead, they do not hold their speed and brake late. They lift off the accelerator immediately, engaging overrun fuel cutoff and letting the vehicle's momentum carry it forward smoothly. In most cases, by the time they reach the junction, the signal has turned green or the roundabout has cleared, allowing them to accelerate smoothly without ever coming to a complete standstill. Eliminating full stops avoids the massive energy penalty required to launch a stationary 1.5-ton car back into motion. The measured difference in fuel consumption between a reactive driver and an anticipatory driver on the exact same route is consistently between 20 and 30%. You do not need a brand new vehicle, an expensive hybrid system, or unverified fuel additives to cut your motoring expenditure dramatically. You simply need to adopt the deliberate mechanical principles that Japanese motorists have practiced for decades.